Southern California. You're watching Action News Now. Breaking news.
You are watching Action News Now coverage of the Camp Fire. Cal Fire officials say the fire has burned a significant number of structures and injured 2 firefighters and multiple civilians. Here's what we learned from the news conference held in Oroville. Officials have not said the condition of any of those injured or confirmed any deaths. Officials also would not confirm reports that hundreds, possibly even thousands of buildings have been destroyed. Right now, their #1 goal is to get as many people out. Public safety is their main concern. Now, Cal Fire officials did say people are trapped in the town of Paradise. Captain John Gaddy said crews are still focused on helping people get out of the town of Paradise. Now, the fire has consumed more than 18,000 acres. And it is still 0% contained. It has forced more than 27,000 people to evacuate. One thing that was noted in the press conference, they'll keep an eye on winds. Winds are predicted to remain high throughout the night. So they said that is a major factor that they're looking at. Now, Captain Gaddy said he is aware of 4 or 5 injuries, but no deaths at this point. He said the fast-moving flames forced fire crews to shelter people at a Walgreens and other locations until flames passed through. Now, the fire broke out around 6:30 this morning in the Camp Creek area of the Feather River Canyon. Now, we are getting word that the Feather River Hospital in Paradise has been destroyed. Sierra Sacramento Valley EMS agency says they have gotten confirmation from units on the ground that the Feather River Hospital has been destroyed by fire. You can see the flames burning close to the hospital in this photo sent in to us by Caitlin Smith. Now, Dignity Health officials say at least 6 strike teams of 5 ambulances and across Northern California have been sent to Butte County. Officials say a couple of ambulances were either damaged or destroyed by the fire. Now, patients from Feather River have been moved to Oroville Hospital and Enloe Medical Center in Chico. And that's another thing that Sheriff Corey Honey mentioned. He said that all patients were loaded up in any vehicle available that they had and then transferred to the Oroville Hospital or Enloe from there. Now, John Gaddy from Cal Fire says this fire has changed multiple directions, and of course their main concern is protecting life. Here's a current list of evacuated areas: Lower Clark, Lower Skyway, and the Nimshu Zone, Carnegie, North Pines, North Firehaven, South Firehaven, South Pine, also Old Magalia and South Catalink in Polga, Concow, Highway 70 from Concow South, including all of Yankee Hill on both sides of 70, also Centerville and Butte Creek Canyon. Evacuation centers. Okay, this is something that Shelby Boston from Butte County mentioned during the press conference. It looks like the Chico Church of the Nazarene is still available. The Church of the Nazarene in Oroville is also available, but they're telling people, please go to the Gridley Fairgrounds. The neighborhood church in Chico is filling up. So that's something that they mentioned in the press conference just now. That there are 3 shelters, the Nazarene in Chico, the Nazarene in Oroville, but also the Gridley Fairgrounds. So please evacuate there. And if you want to know if you haven't been able to get in contact with a loved one, she did release a website you can visit. It's safeandwell.org. So if you're wondering if you have a loved one and you haven't heard from them, please go to that website. They're asking people to check in, and they're asking people if you'd like to know if you do have a loved one and you haven't been able to get in touch with them, please go to that website. Well, we are now joined by Action News Now anchor Debbie Cobb, who is live outside of our studio. Debbie.
Lauren, I'm on top of the Action News Now studios right now at the corner of Silver Bell and Eaton Road. And we're about 14 miles west of where the fire started in Polga. If you look over my shoulder, you can see the clear sky. As we move to the right, I'm going to have Frank follow me through. Look to the right, it obviously started in Polga. This morning when I was driving the kids to school at 7:30, it was about 100 acres. By 2 o'clock, it had grown from 5,000 to 8,000. Last report, we had 18,000 acres. And you can see how the fire has moved, and it's moving as it moved through Paradise. And a big factor, of course, and looking back at me now, because Frank, turn this way, if you can turn the camera this way, you can see the dark black smoke in back of you. It just continues to grow. A big factor, of course, in this fire has been the wind. Right now, the wind gusts are up to 25 miles an hour. We've got pretty much a steady wind of 20 miles an hour on top of the roof right now. And earlier this morning, gusts were to 52 miles an hour up in the Pulga area. As the wind was blowing through Pulga, our peaks were 52 miles an hour with sustained winds of 20 miles an hour. Now, a lot of the calls that we've been receiving from people in the newsroom, a lot of people have been calling in about the winds and the problems that they've experienced up there, as well as people calling in, Lauren, asking about loved ones in the fire zone. They've been wanting to know about where to contact, how to find out where their loved ones are. We can't say enough, as the sheriff said earlier, to contact the Red Cross, the safeandwell.org website. Go there to register if you're safe, and also to let people know not only that you're safe, but also if you need to find people, to put those names on there as well. Right now, as you can see in back of me, lots of smoke up in the air right now, lots of black smoke. The fire obviously continuing to burn. Last we heard from CAL FIRE officials as that somebody had asked the question about the fire possibly moving into Chico, and the fire officials' response was potentially the city of Chico is threatened, but not likely that that would happen. But it all depends again on the wind, and right now the winds have been kicking up a little bit here on the rooftop, where wind is estimated at about 25 miles an hour right now. Again, we're going to continue to monitor the wind speeds through the night, and we're going to send it back to you in the studio. Lauren?
Okay, Debbie, thank you. And I can see just the wind blowing up there. Well, we have our reporter, Spencer Joseph, standing by for us. He was at that press conference held in Oroville. Spencer, what's the latest?
Thank you. Yes, as you mentioned, that press conference just ended. I'm joined now with CAL FIRE Chief Sholin. Chief, tell me a little bit about what we heard inside and what the latest is on the fire.
So the latest on the fire, we're still at 18,000. I'm sure it's grown since our meeting we just had in that room by a couple thousand acres. The fire is, we're not able to engage in perimeter control at this point because we are actively saving civilians' lives right now. And as we transition and take care of those civilians, then we'll look at structured defense and those sort of things. The fire is moving in a number of directions. It's established itself into the Butte Creek Canyon and drainage there, so we're concerned about the winds and where they'll push that fire in that area. It's progressed out of the town of Paradise down towards the Butte College, if you will, Butte Valley area, so we have some concerns with where we can catch it down on that end. We still have fire actively growing up into the Concow area and spreading out into the outskirts of the wilderness up in there. So we have a number of locations and fronts that we're trying to get resources into, but right now civilian rescue is our #1 priority. Please heed the evacuation warnings and mandatory evacuations that have been posted by the Sheriff's Office. And if you are on the outskirts where those warnings are being posted, prepare yourself. Think about it tonight. Now is the time to have your stuff ready to move. This fire is moving very rapidly. It grew in about 2,000 acres in less than 40 minutes on initial response.
And so we talk about other fires that we've had in Northern California. Obviously, this is incredibly serious, much more serious than a lot of other fires. What makes this one so aggressive and move so rapidly?
So we looked at our conditions, and red flag warnings have been posted over the last 24 to 48 hours. Those conditions came to light this morning, and with our typical winds that we do see out of the Jarbo Gap drainage there, those winds were prevalent this morning, sustained at 18 miles an hour up to 40 miles an hour gusts. So with the fire location where it started, access was extremely difficult to get into it rapidly. It allowed it to grow. The fuels are very dry because we obviously haven't had precipitation, and we don't have any precipitation in the next 7-day outlook. So that those conditions and the terrain fed the fire with the available timber and brush model that was out there, and it was rapid fire growth. We've seen this unfortunately before in 2008. It's a very similar footprint to the fires we've had in Concow before, and nature repeats itself, and that's where we're at today.
And so, we're here in Oroville, and the wind is still exceptionally high. gusting. In fact, the fire is off in that direction from us and blowing this way. So I guess the next question I would have is who should be ready? And we talked about it a little bit in the press conference, but who should be preparing their stuff and packing their stuff?
The warnings that are being be posted here shortly, if they haven't already been by the Sheriff's Office, will identify those communities reaching out beyond the core of the actual fire damage right now, which is essentially the town of Paradise. And then when we look up into the Magalia area, we have the Concal people. Those are all in the core. Those are mandatory evacuations. Warnings are going to be going out further out, and those specifics will be found on the Butte County Sheriff's website. And that's where they need to go so that I don't steer you folks in the wrong way and cause.
And final question for you is, in terms of how these first responders save lives and track people, obviously that's their first priority, but how do they look for that, and how do they get to some of these areas to save these lives? And talk me through what the mind of a first responder is out there.
So resources respond in, obviously, when there's emergency, when everyone's trying to leave. And so there's a lot of instances that I've heard throughout the day as our fire engines and sheriffs and police officers are going in. Folks are getting stuck on the road, trapped just outside of their homes trying to evacuate. So firefighters, I know for sure, have taken folks refuge in their fire engines and transported them. They've taken refuge, deployed their personal fire shelters that protect them with civilians and sheltered them in place along the road until the fire front moved. We've deployed our bulldozers to clear roadways, cars off the road in order to get access into people to get them out of their homes. And we've transported burn victims, civilians, out of the fire area to waiting ambulances and things. So it's really all hands on deck. This is what our folks get trained to do, and that's what they're up there doing since 6:37 this morning until now.
Absolutely. Thank you, sir. Appreciate you.
Yes, sir.
Appreciate you joining us.
Is there anything that people can do to protect their homes as well?
Of course, we're going to continue to bring you the latest on the front lines here and bring you the latest from the individuals and the stories, as well as the first responders. We heard one of the Butte County Board of Supervisors earlier talking about how he had to shelter in place and was sheltered with several sheriff's deputies, as well as other incredible stories. And in that press conference, there were individuals, as the sheriff said, that most likely have lost their homes at this point, but they're still out on the front lines, still saving lives. And honestly, you can't say enough for these first responders here today about how they've saved all of these people's lives. You just heard it, deploying shelters, going to where the need is most, and absolutely incredible to hear some of those firsthand accounts. But for now, I'm going to go ahead and toss it back to you in the studio, and hopefully we'll get the latest soon.
Spencer, thank you. Well, PG&E is reporting 34,000 customers are without power due to the Camp Fire in Paradise, Polga, and Concow. PG&E is also obviously asking anyone who sees down power lines and a gas leak to call 911 and report it. We saw live aerials of these electrical poles going up in flames, so please be mindful of that. And they're reminding everyone to stay away from those downed lines. Well, classes have been canceled for all Butte County public schools tomorrow. Classes are canceled at both Chico State and Butte College. The college is now being used as a staging area for fire personnel. The Butte College main campus will be closed tonight and tomorrow due to current fire evacuations. Officials say the main campus is not threatened. Classes will still continue only at the Glenn Center. And again, just to kind of go over some of the information said at the press conference, someone asked, is Chico threatened by the Camp Fire? And fire officials, their answer was, it depends on containment. Obviously, the winds are projected to be very high. So for a look at our conditions going into this evening, let's check in with Chief Meteorologist Chris Kuiper. Chris.
Yeah, and we're going to continue to track these winds all night long, which in the valley are starting to diminish a little bit. It's still certainly very breezy out there, certainly very windy, but not as bad as it was, say, 11 o'clock or noon or so. We had 40-mile-an-hour gusts in the valley. Right now, we're noticing winds to about 13 miles an hour in Redding, 25-mile-an-hour gusts in the Jarbo Gap area. That's near where the Camp Fire is right now, and that's still windy for sure. But earlier on this morning, we had winds gusting over 50 miles an hour there. 52-mile-an-hour gusts were happening there at 4 o'clock in the morning, 5 o'clock in the morning, 6 o'clock in the morning, and that looks like what should happen again tonight. We'll see these winds stay in this range here for the next few hours, and then about 11 o'clock or so, they'll start to pick back up again, and it will get kind of windy out there yet again. The valley winds will subside, but these winds here through the Feather River Canyon, they are going to pick up later on tonight. Again, this is what we did earlier on today. This is when we had, again, 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning, 6 o'clock in the morning. We had those 52-mile-an-hour gusts happening through the Feather River Canyon. So it was really rolling, and it was a pretty windy day in the valley as well. 25, 30, 44-mile-an-hour gusts earlier on, but those winds are in the process of diminishing in the valley here. Mountains, a little bit of a different story. Humidity, very low. Single-digit humidity right now in Chico and in Corning and close to it in just about every place else. So we've got the wind going on, and we've got the very dry humidity out there as well. And those are the two primary fueling factors going on. Also, the fact is just hasn't rained in forever. So the fuels and the brush and everything like that is just bone dry. So breaking down what's going to happen with the campfire, the conditions out there on the campfire overnight looking like this. Excuse me, 7 o'clock tonight, temperatures in the mid-50s, so it's cool out there. And those northeast winds continuing like they are right now, about 20 to 30 miles an hour. About 11 o'clock tonight, that's when the winds start to pick up. Temperatures down to the low 50s, and those northeast winds 25 to 40 miles an hour. That's at 11 o'clock, and then 3 o'clock in the morning, that's when those winds really get rolling, 40 to 50-mile-an-hour gusts. That's what happened last night. Looks like it's what's going to happen again tonight. Tomorrow night, much lighter winds are in a forecast, but tonight I do think those winds are going to be a big problem yet again there through the Feather River Canyon near Paradise, near Concow, near all those areas basically impacted by the General Gap winds in the Feather River Canyon. You see a smoke plume here on the visible satellite image continuing to pour out into the valley, and now we're starting to lose the daylight there, so we're losing that. Wind advisory continues for a little while longer in the valley. It should expire here in a few hours, I would think. May continue in the mountains, but in the valley, we will be seeing these winds subside here after sunset tonight. Red flag warning continues through tomorrow morning. The conditions improving a little bit overnight as the humidity increases and the winds diminish, except here on the ridge and through the Feather River Canyon. Humidity will increase, but the winds are also going to increase as well. So it doesn't look like the conditions really are going to get any better here until later tomorrow afternoon or tomorrow night, really, through the Feather River Canyon. Let's go over to Lauren now.
Chris, thank you. We are joined now by Callie Jane Deandra with the Butte County Safe Council. She is here to discuss the fire dynamics. And Callie, I know you are yourself a resident of Paradise. So, I mean, it's been a long day for you.
Yes, yes.
And you were evacuated earlier.
Yes, our family evacuated this morning, and we're just really feeling a lot of sorrow and condolences for everyone who's been impacted.
And so what can you tell me about just the area that has experienced fire before in Paradise?
Great. So we've been able to work with the community since 2008 when we had the fires then, and we had a campfire in 2008, the same exact name, coming from the same area. And so one of the things that we're seeing as a big factor in this is old dead vegetation that was burned in that fire. And then of course the Humboldt fire burned in 2008 as well, right below where our current fire perimeter is sitting right now.
Are there any differences? What can you tell me from 2008 to now? Anything, is there just striking similarities that you see besides being almost in the same location? Are there anything else that's kind of?
Yes, you know, the campfire in 2008 was from lightning, so we have a different cause there potentially, but the footprint, again, the winds pushed it in a very similar footprint, and of course the level of devastation was very high in 2008 as well.
So moving forward, what do you expect from this fire maybe versus the one in 2008?
Well, that's to be determined, I think, is what we learned with the press conference moments ago. But the main thing to keep in mind is how dangerous these embers are, and that the embers in both the campfires are the culprit behind the devastation. We know that the winds and the dry material are so significant, but the embers themselves have a lifespan, and they're out in front of the fire, and they're causing these smaller fires, and we sometimes make the analogy that they're like the seeds of a fire. And so we really just want to encourage everyone to be aware of how those embers are playing in this situation.
And the wind right now is definitely not helping that situation. So you were able to evacuate earlier, or when did this, how was your day kind of panned out?
Well, we were headed to Paradise up Pence Road, and we saw the plume and dropped some kids at school, daycare, and then realized that we were in an emergency, went back and got kids.
Okay.
And then it started to come toward Skyway, and at that point it was about 8:30, and traffic was already backing up. And we know that our officials have done the best possible job to get that moving.
Yeah.
But it was a long ride down the hill.
Yeah.
And we know that everyone has really had a tragedy with that today. So,
Have you heard from any friends, or are you kind of keeping note on maybe neighbors?
yes.
What's it like for you right now?
Yeah, we've had a lot of people reaching out by text. Luckily, our cell phones are working, and so that's nice. All of our coworkers we've been in touch with to make sure everyone got out safely, and so we're appreciative that the technology is working down here in Chico.
Yes, yeah. I mean, what's going through your mind, I think, going into the night? It's now 5:22. I mean, I think just getting up this morning, you know, none of us could really predict that this is where we'd be, you know, this evening. You know, care to share how you're feeling right now? Are you worried about your home, or are you just glad you kind of have your family together?
Sure, that's definitely the number one thing, and that's our heart for everyone right now, that they're able to connect with their loved ones. Our home is subject to being burned tonight. We don't know which way the winds will blow, and so that's certainly a possibility we're prepared for. It does feel vulnerable, knowing that it's an unpredictable situation tonight.
All right, Kelly. Well, thank you so much for visiting us.
Thank you.
Thank you. Well, a woman from Chico says she had contact with her mother around 4:10 this evening, who says that there are 150 to 200 people trapped in a building under construction in Paradise on the Skyway near Pence Road. Now, this is information we're just getting right now. Now, according to firefighters, they are dropping water on them to prevent embers from getting to them.
I got a call from my mom at 8 a.m. this morning. She said that they were evacuating. She, shortly after that, was in the car and giving me updates. They were in gridlock traffic for a very long time. They were the next car to go on to Skyway, but at that point, the fire had gone onto the road, and so officers or firefighters, somebody told them that they needed to get out of the car, and they evacuated about 150 to 200 people out of their cars into a parking lot that was across from Fast Stop gas station. They were there for quite a long time. A few times I wasn't able to get a hold of them, and we thought we had lost them. We even said our goodbyes a few times because it got very scary. And then I was able to get a hold of them about an hour later, and they said that they had moved everybody into a building that was a building that looked like it was under construction. They had water. They have 6 fire trucks up there surrounding them, keeping them safe, and they said that there were water drops, but that at one point it got so bad that fire embers were coming into the building, and they had an announcement telling them when that room burns down to go to the next room. And basically they're just trying to keep them safe right now. They said that they're trying their very best to clear off the fire off of Skyway so that they can let them out, and they mentioned something about buses being able to get them out, but right now it's not safe to get them out yet because there's fire everywhere. At this point, everyone is just praying, and I just wait for the call. There's a lot going on right now. Something I can say is that the firefighters are really working hard. They've been there and comforted them, and I know that the firefighters would die before my family. They're taking very good care of them.
All right, well, once the campfire erupted and evacuations were ordered, members of the greater North State community immediately sprang into action to help. The Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints opened up some of its Chico church buildings as temporary shelters. Evacuees were arriving by late this morning. This is not an official shelter. Leaders are working to find temporary homes for evacuated church members.
What we're trying to do is, and it's a very fluid situation, every minute brings a new need, but we're trying to house people that are in our church that no longer have homes or that are in need of housing. So we have our database of our whole entire state, which includes Orland and Willows and Chico, that have available houses. And we're trying to then match up people with needs in the appropriate housing. We don't have the facilities really for anything more than a short-term few hours here. So they're much better served by being with a family, especially if it's going to last more than a day. So that's what we're trying to do.
And what are you finding so far? I know it's still early in the game, but are you finding members of the church that are jumping on board and opening up their doors?
Yes. We probably have more people available than what we'll have need for. It's hard to judge at this time, but yeah, the response has been overwhelmingly positive. We're all rallying together to get through this. This is a bad situation and changing moment by moment.
Bad situation indeed. Stay with Action News now for the latest on the campfire. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back.